Finally, nailed it. First try. As the Eagles coaching staff starts to rotate in and out of the building, we can't help but wonder, is it time to panic? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Philly Sports Now, Philly Fan Podcast. My name is Zach. With me is Andrew, and it's time to talk Philly sports now that, not only are the Eagles over, but the Super Bowl has actually come and gone. We at Philly Sports Now has taken a slight break that was well needed. I went on vacation. Andrew went on vacation, we'll say. It's been great. But
I
no,
wish.
we needed some time off to get some things together, make some plans for Philly Sports Now. There are some changes coming to the channel. Have not made them yet. Work in progress behind the scenes. Actually, with old co-hosts Nick at Philly Sports Now, but we shall see all that come to fruition soon, I hope. But anyway, as I said at the opening, Eagles talk is back, and we have some off-season stuff to discuss. I mean, I think it was pretty blatantly blamed that this failed offensive season was put on Kevin Patullo. And since our last podcast, Kevin Patullo fired from the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think anyone's really upset about this. I think the Patullo situation was pretty similar to the Brian Johnson situation, where this person was given a lot of power and he was kind of trusted with it entirely. The difference being, I think Brian Johnson, it was more his relationships to Jalen Hurts that was kind of what drove that. And Patullo, it's very obvious. It's being talked about a lot, Andrew. I think we can agree. Patullo and Sirianni just way too close. Sirianni way too trusting in how Patullo handled things, and I think that is just as inevitably what bit them in the end. There's something else we're going to talk about today here, which is the elephant in the room: Stoutland retiring. Or well, actually, that's not official. He left the Eagles. Um, Again, that seems to be tied to the Patullo and Sirianni situation. Now, I joked, is it time to panic? Whoa, the brightness on my screen.
Yeah,
But I
I
joked,
was gonna say something.
what the heck just happened? Um,
That's why I was laughing.
I feel like I just got out of a tanning booth or something. What is happening here? Whatever. Oh, okay. Adjust, I guess. I don't know, man.
Must be auto brightness.
I guess, dude. But anyway, um, I joked about is it time to panic? And I will say this is not a good look. I'm not. I think panic is still more than I'm willing to say, and there is a very important reason why. And so to go from the top, with Kevin Patullo being fired, we have the new OC replacement in Sean Mannion, who was the quarterbacks coach for the Green Bay Packers. This is both good and bad, and I'll tell you why. The good news of this is that he's out of he's not a within hire. And we've talked about this, Andrew, but the biggest crutch, the biggest like self-inflicted wound that the Eagles continue to do is hiring from within when it comes to coordinator positions. Whenever they give someone a promotion from within, it just doesn't turn out well. That's just the history of it isn't there, as opposed to hiring Vic Fangio outside of the organization, hiring Kellen Moore outside of the association. Like the hires from outside of the association definitely give me a little more life, a little more hope. But the fact that he doesn't have play calling experience, and that's gotta be an entire reason why he's being hired for the Eagles OC position, that's a little concerning. I know I keep dancing around it here, but like, is it time to panic? Um, it, it's a little bit of yes and no, and I think that's the best way to put it. I think Stout leaving is a terrible loss to the Eagles. I think it I think this is kind of getting to a smoke and fire situation where it probably is associated with Sirianni and Patullo, but I think that we are at a situation here where we are now seeing how we step in. He got rid of Patullo. He's telling Nick, "Hey, this is what you got to do now." They went and hired outside the organization. Now you move on to the next thing. Uh, am I panicking? I think the answer is no, but I'm not exactly feeling great right now. So I threw all these things out there. There's a lot to talk about. Andrew, why don't we start from the OC top? Let's talk Kevin Patullo, Sean Mannion. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this, and I think it starts with the offensive coordinator as you mentioned. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a good hire. He's really well respected around the league, and a lot of people have been talking high on him. Similar to the secondaries coach the Eagles lost, and Christian Parker to the Cowboys, their defensive coordinator. This is almost that guy on the offensive side of the ball. Is this guy's been talked about as he's an up and coming offensive mind. He's going to be a head coach in probably 2 or 3 years, they're saying. So I think with all that being said and all that smoke being talked about him, I think that's gives me less worry about when the Eagles promoted Kevin Patullo without any play calling experience. It wasn't like everyone was talking about Kevin being the next great potential head coaching candidate, right? It was what experience does he have outside of being Nick Sirianni's best friend, right? So I think that's where I'm a lot more excited about this and not as worried about this guy not having play calling experience because of all the talk around the league. And, you know, obviously, the rumors, right, when Vic Fangio, like that whole thing for 2 days before it got quickly shut down about him potentially retiring was, oh, well, they shouldn't have lost Christian Parker then because he's supposed to be the next big defensive coordinator and then head coach. So I think there's a lot of excitement for this. And I think too, with you got to be careful with what you wish for, right? Everyone's wishing for Kevin to be gone and the Eagles' offense changing, right? But everyone loves the team that the meaning the players and the guys that are here. They wanted a different, people running the show, and that part of that bringing new people is going to cause people to leave, and that's what happened with Jeff Stoutland. I don't think it was a Nick Sirianni issue. I don't think it was a Howie Roseman issue. I don't think it was a Kevin Patullo issue. I think it was, everyone's calling for a new offensive mind, new offensive leadership, and they trust Sean Mannion so much where they're letting him bring in his guys. And I think this is more of a Sean decision. I think, obviously there's the rumors that, he Stalin wasn't happy with the run game coordinator stuff and all that. And he wanting to lose that title because he felt like his voice wasn't being heard enough. But again, I think this is, if you look at the guys Sean's hiring and Josh Gizzard as the passing game coordinator, and Chris Cooper as the offensive line coach, they've all worked together or crossed passes in the past. He's worked with Vic Fangio in Denver when he was the defensive coordinator. Sean Mannion and um, uh, and Chris worked under Sean McVay and with the Rams. So they all have experience with each other. And this hire of Josh Grizzard, too, as the passing game coordinator, he's done great things with Baker Mayfield, helping Baker find rhythm there in Tampa Bay after failing in so many other spots. So he's got great passing. So I'm excited what he's going to bring to Jalen Hurts. So I'm excited for this. And again, I think, yes, does it stink losing Jeff Stalin? Obviously, right? He's been a legendary coach for the Eagles organization. I mean, you just saw with Jordan Mailata saying he admitted to crying when he heard this news. Jason Kelsey talking about how great he is. I mean, for example, they created Stalin University because of all the guys he was able to build. But I'd be more worried about losing him if we had all rookies coming in and we needed someone to build this offensive line again. But Lane Johnson, right? He knows what he's doing. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer, probably. He's a Pro Bowler. Jordan, right? He's a Pro Bowler already. Cam Jurgens, he was a Pro Bowler this year. The biggest question, and I know the rumors, and I think I'm fully confident. I think Lane Johnson will be back next year. I'm not worried about that one. Landon Dickerson's still a little bit of a worry because we all heard him after the game was he was talking about his future because of how banged up he's been. So that's the big question mark. But again, these guys have all been around for a while, so I'm not as worried because it's not like you have to start these guys and build them into this great offensive line. They're already there, and so I think that goes without saying in that sense. So I'm excited. I think we wanted a change. We're getting the change, and these guys are going to bring in fresh ideas for this offense. And am I going to say he's fully happy? No, but AJ Brown was on a podcast recently, and you could just kind of hear it in his voice. He's ready to go. Like, and maybe he's just saying it, but we've seen him tell the truth in front of the media or hide from the media. And I was actually excited with the way he was talking. Was he's ready to go? He likes the new offensive mind coming in, and he's happy in Philly. Basically, what he said. So I'm excited to see what these fresh ideas bring.
To go off of that, because you brought up a bunch of topics I was going to kind of touch upon. So right off the end there with the AJ Brown stuff, him being excited, I think it's clear as day. Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni together was a problem. You mentioned it, the best friend situation. Like it was a too trusting situation, and Nick, I guess, had free reign to make that decision after winning the Super Bowl, which I don't fault that. They won they won the goddamn Super Bowl. Like I don't at the end of the day, there is a level of we need to calm down still going on. But that being said, I think it's important to note that we saw them move on very quickly after. Like, I don't think there was any reason to fire Patullo midseason, which is why it didn't happen. I think if that did happen, there would have been more panic in the building. I think there was a degree of trust still existing that the thing that I think is just evident is people weren't happy. And Patullo being gone, I think, again, they won the Super Bowl last year. So there is a part of this team that works together, including Nick Sirianni. So by getting rid of Nick Sirianni, you're not just getting rid of the problem. To get rid of Patullo, to make sure it's evident they have to start at a better position to get someone else, an outside mind in so that you're not just agreeing all the time. Sometimes Andrew and I agree on things, sometimes we disagree on things. Sometimes when you disagree, you riff, and that's how things get done better, especially in these competitive situations. And I think that's key here. I think getting someone else was important. I will say I want to ask Andrew, what do you think though, being that Sean Mannion was a quarterback's coach? How do you think that impacts? Because, like, you just said AJ Brown was excited or seems excited, which makes sense. But now, what do we think about Saquon Barkley and what's going on through his head as a quarterback's coach with no play calling experience gets brought in to be the new offensive head mind? Because someone like him, when you're thinking about the run game, you brought up Chris Cupper, who is the new hire from the Vikings to be the new Eagles offensive line coach, right? That's great. I'm sure Barkley will work with him a lot. But at the end of the day, it does feel like Sean Mannion is who they're all going to report to. So, do you think, from a running perspective, is there going to be any tension in the house?
I don't because of the guys you're bringing in coming from a team with a very good running back in Josh Jacobs. Is he as good as Saquon Barkley? No, but he's still one of the better backs in the NFL that they utilized a lot. And this guy, worked with Jordan Love and worked with Josh Jacobs building that relationship there. So he's coming in with good experience on both of those parts of the ball. So I'm excited there. And your run game coordinator you hired in Ryan. I think it's I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I think Ryan Mayfield. He's coming from the Packers as well, so he's also from the Josh Jacobs tree right there. We're working with Josh Jacobs, so I think right there you bring in those two guys from the Packers with a good quarterback in Jordan Love and a great running back in Josh Jacobs. I think that's going to go in a good spot for Barkley. I think it's going to create a lot of good chances for him. Again, I think as you already touched on, a lot of players I don't think liked what it was last year. So I think they're all going to be pretty open minded to a new system coming in.
And I think that we as fans just need to kind of hold on to this. I keep going back to it. I tried to keep watching our Gargano show. He is just still my favorite of the mainstream media. But his negativity coming off of this year, I get it, and I get clickbait is fun, and I get clickbait gets the clicks and gets the money. But like, I don't think he did sell out because I think he just seems that angry, and I just I do feel like the point I'm trying to get to is I do think these moves are kind of exciting. I think this is something that fans should be excited about. And I think we should be looking forward to it. As you pointed out, like my biggest concern, I guess, my biggest, negativity here was, oh, well, when you bring in a quarterback's mind, how is that going to affect the running mind? How does that affect the run game? And that's kind of me being a devil's advocate, but also like kind of an interesting conversation piece. Whereas where people are just like, to just I just you can't I get it. You just want to be like, well, what does Nick Sirianni even do? What does he even do?
He wins.
Yeah, exactly, Andrew. I just dropped my squish ball, but like, you know what? Like at the end of the day, guess what, folks? I'm not a coach, and I don't know what any of the coaches do on a day-to-day basis. And until I'm led into a locker room, I really don't know what's going on. And don't tell me your hard knocks experience is going to give you the coaching background that lets me know that you know what you're talking about. But it's just one of those things where again, there are plenty of NFL commentators or minds or whatever you want to call them that are saying the next big thing is the CEO mind, which is neither offense nor defense, but is kind of bringing the team together. And that is Nick Sirianni at his core. And did something not work last year? Absolutely. But we are at this point where you have to kind of trust that they're going to figure it out and build it. And I just think it's wild to look if I go Nick Sirianni's on the hot seat and I clip that, great, it'll get views. But we as a fan base shouldn't be saying that already.
Yeah, it's funny. Right? I mean, you look at Dan Campbell; he's viewed as a great coach, great offensive mind, and he's the same thing as Sirianni. He doesn't call the plays, and you know he did this year midseason because they fired their offensive coordinator, and it continued to go downhill, and they missed the playoffs. So, like to your point earlier about like they shouldn't like they did the right thing, letting the season play out. I mean, you look at firing Kevin midseason does not prove anything. You saw again from the Lions, a team that everyone thought was going to be Super Bowl contenders. So you get both ways there, right? You had a team in the Eagles that tried to figure it out, and they went on, won the division, hosted a playoff game. Unfortunately, they lost that home game. And then you had the Lions who made that firing midseason and missed the playoffs. So which team would you rather be? And I mean, I think that the answer is clear. You'd rather be the Eagles making the playoffs.
Be the one
So,
that won a Super Bowl
yeah.
already. And like, look, I get it's a win now mentality or what have you done for me lately? But what you did for me within a 365-day period was win a Super Bowl. Like, we're not talking 2 years ago. We're not talking 4 years ago. We're talking last year. This year ended and it stunk. Like, it was a stinky ending. The wild card exit is always a weak ending. I feel like there's some debates whether or not it's even considered a playoff game anymore. Like, is it the first game outside the playoffs? Is it I don't know. But it's one of those things where I have yet to see anything causing any tension or any real worry. Am I panicking? No. Am I upset? Yeah, I'm upset. I'm sitting here yelling into a microphone. We lost in the wild card round. We could have went back to back. I think the Eagles easily could have beat either team that was in the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, I'm upset. I'm not upset to the point that I'm gonna fire a coach. And that's just I we moved on from the OC. That's the right move. We move on from the offensive line coach. It's a little scary, but I don't hate the move, and I think we actually could have a much better season ahead of us.
No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, again, I like this offensive coordinator. I think the change at offensive line coach, it comes with wishing change upon the offense because guys, you know, they don't always want to work with the guys that have been there in the past. And you kept a couple guys on the offensive staff. I think that's the biggest question mark left now on this staff is, what is the actual role for Kevin Patullo going forward? Because again, they never officially said they fired him. They said they were moving him from the offensive coordinator, and there's been no word on whether he's gone or if he's back. So I'm curious, once everything's said and done and finalized, is his name still going to be on the staff as like an offensive
That would
quality
be
control
crazy.
coach?
He
Because
he
again,
should not be in the room.
they've
Like
not
I
once.
will say that much. He
No,
should
I'm
not
going to
be in
say
the
that
room.
they've not once said he is gone from the team or the organization or fired. All they said was they were removing him from the offensive coordinator position.
Well, I'll let Howie
So
Roseman
we'll
make
see what
that
happens.
decision. That's crazy. Yeah, but I think we'll call it there. So thank you everyone for listening to Philly Sports Now, a Philly fan podcast. You can find us on social media. Links are in the description below. As I said before, make sure you like and subscribe to keep in mind for upcoming changes to the channel. All positive speaking. Yeah, I think the thing we coming off of here, we're prying ourselves in right now is it's not a panic. It's not time to panic,
No.
guys. Like we just like it's time to get ready for Super Bowl 61. It's time to get excited for the 2026 season, and it's time to hype up the Eagles off season. Look forward to the
Yeah.
draft. Maybe some live representation. Who knows?
It's time to start filling out your mock drafts. That's what I'll be
Right.
doing.
Right. Thank you for everyone for listening. And as always, go birds. Good night.